Welcome back here for another episode of the Challenge Insiders on Reality Pop. I'm your host, Chris, and with me today, as always, I've got my co-hosts, Drew and Chantel. Chantel, we'll go over to you. How are you? How have you been doing?
I've been doing really well. I'm very happy that the Challenge regular season is coming to an end. I'm always going to be a Challenge fan, but these long 19 episode seasons, it's a little bit too long. Right now would be a good time to have wrapped it up instead of having a couple more episodes. But I'm happy that we have a little bit of All-Stars going on right now. So I guess that's what they wanted for us, the balance. It's like you're going to hate the main season, but you'll love All-Stars and want to watch it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a marathon, I think, when it gets to the end of the season. And also a lot of the, I was going to say a lot of the big strategy and people working against each other would have already happened by this time. But I mean, this season, let's be honest, everybody has just been working together in that major vet alliance. So it hasn't really helped either. It probably makes the season feel even longer. Drew, how are you doing? Last time we spoke, it was on your show for your 20,000 subscriber celebration, which once again, congratulations. I'm sure everybody that's in the live stream here today would have been on that as well. How have you been doing since then?
I've been doing well. I will say that there was a point where I was like, man, when was the last time we did a live? And it was sooner than last week than what our normal week was. It felt like it was forever ago, but I'm doing well. I'm wearing a Black Friday hoodie sale that I got, and I got some new lights for the Christmas theme. So
you shaved your
I didn't
face.
get infiltrated by Ruby. Yeah, and I lost the mustache. That was like the hot topic in my comment sections this week was losing the mustache.
Like, what's different? I'm like, is he wearing glasses? No.
Yeah, he looks like fresh meat on here. He looks like he's 18 or something coming onto the show today. You've lost like 10 years, you know. All right, well, let's get into it. We've got a few people here early on saying hello, Rodrigo, and also Sam in the chat. Hello, guys. Thank you for being back on the live stream again. Do you think Nam will be on next season? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, Nam, I feel like he had a shot, didn't really get an opportunity this season. There's been so many other good rookies, which we're definitely going to talk about. You know, since this episode, we had both Logan and Emmanuel ultimately going down there and having to take each other on. But there was a lot of sort of interesting things that were happening for me when it came to the actual deliberation this week, because no one wanted to call a name. And CT got extremely frustrated in that deliberation. I got extremely frustrated watching it, but everybody was extremely scared to call a name because they were scared that was going to mean that they would be the person selected to go down there if they weren't automatically just thrown in there. And to me, I don't know how it felt for you guys. It felt like CT really had his aim on Emmanuel, but he needed a reason to put Emmanuel in there because Emmy was never going to want to do that. So he was asking people, state the obvious. Emmanuel has not been in there yet. State the obvious, save yourself. And no one was doing anything. How frustrating was it to watch?
I was so angry. I was like, ugh, like, this is so annoying. Like, you don't want to be here. And I think Amanda even articulated it pretty perfectly. It's like, can you please sell your souls? Like, it is a lot of money. It's life-changing money that a lot of people have this opportunity to get their hands on. And they're actually very close. Like, what there's 10 people left at that time, or 12 or 11. Like, that's pretty close to $1 million. You would never really get that opportunity in your life. And so the fact that they're all just like hemming and hawing, oh, I don't want to throw someone into the bus. And Nelson's like, oh, I don't want to play that kind of game. It's like, you are playing a game. This is what the game is. It's spies, lies, and allies. Like, go in and fight your case so you can win $1 million. I was just like, it was just the epitome of what has been frustrating me about the season is nobody seems like they want to win the money. They want to just like kind of give it to people, or like Devin will be upset that people are not just giving it to him. It's just like, I was frustrated. Obviously, you can tell.
I felt the same exact way. It was frustrating to watch. I mean, we're so close to the end, yet everybody just wanted to stay quiet. They didn't want to put their self out there in case somebody that they did say something bad about was sent down that would have a reason to pick them. It's just like, come on now, let's just play the game. It's at this point that we need to start slitting throats and doing whatever we can to stay out of the elimination. If you get voted in, 100% going in. But if you don't, then you got a little bit of a chance of not seeing an elimination. So this was your prime opportunity. Very frustrated with Nelson saying this isn't a game at one point. And it's like, yeah, it's 100% a game. It's a game and you got to play
the entire thing is a game.
Do it. Yeah, it was very frustrating. I hated it.
Yeah. And Devon's, threats out there saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to be an easy beat when we
I'm
go
not
in
gonna
there.
roll
And,
over.
you know, I'm not going to roll over. I'm going to be extremely physical, and thinking that people were going to back off. You know, Nelson was like, hey, I've got to, you're a friend of mine, but I got to do what I got to do. If it's physical, you know, I'm going to run over you. So really a nothing burger when it came to a threat. And then Emmanuel saying, don't throw me in, but doesn't want to
Yeah,
give a
what happened
reason.
to Emmanuel's like, you're scared to go
I was
against
thinking
me?
about
Like,
that.
where's that guy?
Yeah.
Where's that guy that's like heckling people for like choosing someone that they can beat? Like, I was just also very unimpressed with the fact that he didn't decide to like show that he's like this big alpha player that can take on anybody and he's not scared. Like, if that's kind of how he wants to be in his confessionals, and also seemingly how he's acting a bit in, you know, the after season on Twitter and stuff like that, like, well, let me see you pull, you know, one of those what's his name, Jordan moves where he's like slamming down all the skull cards, and you know what I mean? Like, let me see that kind of ballsy attitude if you're going to be so ruthless in those confessionals. I was very unimpressed.
Yeah. And I was just going to add, it's really funny. Well, struggling at art has said here, yeah, we had some great rookies, but to be honest, we don't need Emmanuel back. I don't think Emmanuel's got a lot of fans here this season, but it was really funny to see how Emmanuel went from not wanting to go down there at all, being scared of going down there, and then as soon as he goes down there afterwards, he is full of confidence. He's like, I always knew I was going to have to come down here. You know, I knew I was waiting for this opportunity. It's like, BS, you did. You were scared to go in there in the first place. You were trying to get yourself and weasel your way out of it in the first place. And now suddenly you're like, I always wanted to do it. And we as the fans, we can see through it.
Definitely could see through it. I was like, it just was made me even more not a fan of Emmanuel. Like, I started liking him, and then now I'm not a fan of his, especially since he's coming for Big T in social media. I'm just like, take a step back, take a seat. He's basically telling Big T that she doesn't deserve to be to be called back because she doesn't add anything to the show. And I'm just like, who are you to decide, Emmanuel, like that Big T doesn't add anything to the show? So he was already irritating me, and then the fact that he wasn't throwing himself in or like making some compelling arguments on who he wanted to go down with, and none of that in the deliberation. He was completely silent. And then after he got a really great elimination challenge that really tailored to his strengths, and he wins, like all of a sudden now, like, oh, suck your blood, and oh, like I knew I could do that, and I'm you know, unbeatable, I'm so amazing. And I was like, I don't buy it.
Not to derail the conversation, I just have to say, Chris, you blew my mind right there, because I've been pronouncing that person's channel name as Struggling a Tart for the longest time, every time on Tiny Table Talks. And when you said Struggling at Art, I was like, what now? And it just blew my mind.
Struggling it up. I've got your back. I've got your back. Don't worry about it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for.
I thought it was about Emmanuel, but like it was about struggling at art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you that. Like something was, the gears were moving when I was saying. I was like, man, I didn't think what I was saying was that, you know, massive. You know, I think we're all sort of in agreement. But to be honest with you, I think that Emmanuel, you know, like they say here, Emmy is way more loyal to Emmanuel than the other way around. Like Emmanuel's thrown Emmy in a few times, but Emmy is going out of her way to make sure that Emmanuel doesn't go down there. And I do think they're good friends, but I do think that if it came down to Emmanuel and Emmy, I think that Emmanuel will be the shadier of the two people in future seasons as well. What did you guys think about everybody giving him a lot of credit here for his amazing social game and the fact that he hasn't been thrown down there? I mean, we've been talking about it for weeks now, where it's probably more so the fact that he's been teamed up with the right people at the right time. Like, I'm not taking anything away from his daily wins, because obviously he has to contribute to that. But do we think his social game is at that level as what people are saying here in the deliberation, and they're saying that he's this massive social mastermind?
I don't think that he's that great of a social player, but one thing that Big T said in her retort to Emmanuel is that he kind of jumps on to having a showmance to have some relevancy and to hopefully being asked back. So I'm thinking that maybe the fact that he's kind of was canoodling first with Michelle, and now he's canoodling with Tori. He was on a winning team. He had a winning partner. I think that they're kind of confusing those four separate things as really great social great social strategy. If we put him into another season and not those people are on it, I'm sure he would find another showmance, but I don't know if he would be in the exact same place. So it's not repeatable. So I don't think that it's his amazing social game. I think it's kind of circumstantial.
Yeah,
I agree.
pretty much. That's how I feel. I mean, I think this episode showed especially how much pull Emmy has and how much credit she has with the vets, because CT could do whatever he really wanted. I mean, he could have pulled the strings if he really wanted, but he wanted to do what Emmy wanted and listened to her and she wanted to save Emmanuel. So I think it just shows that last episode, Emmanuel was like, I can't do anything. There's 5 other people or 4 other people. I can't pull the strings. And yes, she has a smaller group on her side on Sapphire, but I mean, CT could do whatever he wanted. He could have brought over Kyle and they could have voted Emmanuel easily, but he listened out to Emmy and Emmy was able to pull the strings. I think it shows how much pull Emmy has. And I think this episode really showed, I mean, he won the elimination, but Emmanuel did not impress me in like the daily challenge or really anything else in this episode. And he looked quite scared. I was happy to see both him and Devin pretty scared in this episode because they were touting around the whole season thinking that they were hot stuff. And this episode was just like, they were quivering at the knees. I loved to see it.
I loved that as well. And I also think to add to Emmy and how she managed to keep Emmanuel safe in the deliberation, I think that CT also, for maybe future seasons, could always say now that like I never went against the Emerald team, I never went against the Alliance, I was always pretty true to my word here. And so I think that he is kind of playing for future seasons or anything that could happen later on in this game. If like they have to choose people, like he might be saved if that comes up in some sort of purge situation. So I think that also he didn't want to burn those bridges that he had made for the entire rest of the season.
All right, enough about Emmanuel. Let's move on to Logan here. So Logan is the rookie I really enjoyed this season. I wouldn't be angry to see him come back and play another season. And he ultimately makes a big mistake here in choosing Emmanuel to go down in the lair against them there. And a challenge that probably suited Emmanuel. He's got that build. He's quite agile, being a dancer, which was brought up a lot this season. He's someone that can jump over those, the obstacle, get to the other side, flip the switch, run back, and beat the timer quite easily. And it was probably the one person that I think Logan would always have had the most difficult time with going down there. This just really suited Emmanuel. Now, my theory is that Logan did this for the very reason that CT probably went the way he did. And it's all about future seasons. It's all about showing Nelson, I'm not going to betray you. So therefore, he now has the young bucks with him in the future season. Obviously, he doesn't know that Corey's not going to come back, but he's got that side there that he could potentially use in the future. He didn't betray Devin. He didn't betray any of those people that have got strong social ties in the game. So the lesser of all those evils is to go up against Emmanuel. But in my mind, what makes a legendary challenger? It's the person who plays balls to the wall, who goes there to try and win. You're not guaranteed that you're going to be back for another season. So in my opinion, Logan made a massive mistake here in not choosing Devin, because he would have run circles around Devin if he went down there and did this challenge. What was your thoughts going into this and Logan's decision to ultimately go against Emmanuel in the lair?
Well, I had a feeling that Devin was going to be off the table. Right when Anissa was leaving, he did say that the people that were protecting him was Devin, was one of the people that he had mentioned. So we didn't show it that much, but he does seem to have had a bond with Devin. And then hearing some of the people after this episode, kind of in the chat rooms and stuff like that, were saying that he promised Devin that he wasn't going to choose him. And then Devin was also calling out, like, oh, it's a puzzle. Looks like a puzzle when they're going down into the lair. So scaring him a little bit to also not want to pick Devin. So I think that Devin was, for the most part, off the table. I thought with how they were editing it, he was going to actually choose Nelson, because Nelson was like, yeah, everybody always snakes me. My friends, people make promises. They always stab me in the back. So he had said that at the beginning, and they had their heart to heart being like, we'll keep Ruby together. Like, I'm not going to choose you, I would promise. And I thought that he was going to choose Nelson just to that's what his storyline is. So
yeah, So when I heard that Logan chose Emmanuel, probably because he gave his word to Devin, and Logan's such a man of his word, to me, that is advice. The advice I can give him is stop promising everybody everything. Like, stop doing that. You need to leave yourself open for possibilities. And unless you're going to change up and say, I'm going to just snake people and I'll just promise them whatever. And then if I have to backstab them, I will, which has happened on the challenge and it works out well for a good amount of players. I think you need to start doing one or the other, because you need to leave avenues open. Because if you go into the elimination and you can take out Devin easily, you got to have that open. You can't just set yourself up with, I can only choose Emmanuel. I can only go this one person no matter what it is, because you're going to set yourself up to fail. Also, we talked about CT possibly playing for the future. I think that this was a brain play, because I think he knows how strong Logan is and how strong the Ruby team can be. And I wonder if he was like, I'm cool with Emerald doing whatever, and I feel like they're going to get whoever we throw in with Logan. If we throw Logan in, he'll probably take out somebody from Emerald anyways. And I think he also wanted Logan to swap places with Kyle. So if he sends Logan down there, wins the elimination, he's probably coming back to Sapphire, and they were winning when Logan was on the Sapphire team. So I think there was a lot more levels at play here, instead of throwing in Emmanuel, possibly picking Devin and then taking him out, or possibly picking Nelson or whatever. Like, you just go for the surefire thing. So I think there was a little bit more at play, but also the Seafoam Periwinkle, whatever, was still in play. I hate that stupid name. I hate it so much.
I
Periwinkle is
that,
kind of like a light purple, actually, and Seafoam is like a
is
blue
it really?
green. So Periwinkle, it's like Periwinkle blue. It's like a pastel blue with a hint of lavender in it. That's Periwinkle.
All I could think of is like Blue's Clues and the colors of all the dogs, and all I think of like Periwinkle is I thought it was that light green one. I can't think of whatever it is. I know magenta for sure.
I was going to say, Drew, I think you've got a good point. I mean, this episode, CT was the one person who basically, like Rodrigo says here in the chat, he was single-handedly beating both teams on his own in the daily challenge. And he didn't get much help from Emmy and from Kyle here. Kyle's got a lot of heart, but we've heard throughout this whole season, he doesn't really want to play with Kyle. He doesn't trust that Kyle can pull his own weight. Emmy struggled here. It was just something she wasn't going to be good at. She nearly freaked out and didn't do it, but hats off to her. Unlike someone else that we'll be talking about later on, she did push through and do the challenge. But ultimately, CT is the one here that, like a ballerina, dances on the podium and, like Kung Fu Panda, hits everything as he's running over, and he grabs all of these cylinders and brings it back, and he does 7 of them, ultimately beating both of the other teams. And I've got to say, when you see CT do these things, whenever he turns it up, you just realize why he is one of the legends of this game. And, it is very impressive that he can still do it at that level this late in his challenge career as well. So I agree, like, hats off to CT for his performance today, carrying his team on his back. And he probably thought to himself going into this elimination, let's switch things up, because I think Logan probably, you're right, would have wanted to go back to the Wolfpack.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely loved seeing CT just like, he's like, oh, I don't need you guys. I'll just win this for us. I thought it was hilarious. I loved just seeing Emerald squirm. I felt really bad for Ruby. Like, they were just like a mess. Like, they mean well, but no matter what configuration of Ruby it is, it's just like the doomed team to be just such a mess. So, I wish that Kyle had performed a little bit better, just because I don't want CT to not want to run the final with him if they were to save in teams, which it doesn't look like they're going to be. But I was happy that CT was able to beat Emerald, because seeing Devin after just not being in the power position and being like, well, if I have to go in, I have to go in, and like, I'll prove myself. And I'm like, you're so scared, Devin. You were protected by your team for the entire season. Yeah. And now you're so scared.
He was moping up in the bedroom.
Great. Just to see him like back to normal underdog Devin. Like, I don't need to see the braggadocious Devin. I want the underdog. So much more palatable.
Yeah. He had his moment. He had his moment where he was celebrating very early after the elimination, and he's like, happy dance, I'm going to the final kind of thing. And then we had this bombshell being thrown at us at that point as well, saying that it is going to be the night of eliminations. And I tell you what, I love this. I love the fact that TJ actually caught them off guard once. The only thing, when I looked at the next time on the challenges, I saw that they had their actual challenge gear on to go down in the elimination. I wanted them in their casuals to go down there and do an elimination, because that would have been really cool to see, to catch them that off guard. The next season, they don't know if they can go in their casuals when they go to the arena, because anything can happen at any time. Can you imagine Kyle in his jeans and his suit jacket going down there having to do a hall brawl, for instance? It would be funny as hell.
You got to pull on Ayana. You got to sleep in your uniform and underneath. Spoiler, but yeah, we're going to get into that.
Oh, I just wanted to show you this, Drew. So that's kind of what periwinkle is. I don't know if it's translating on the proper color-wise, but that's periwinkle.
Looks blue,
so it's kind of like a blue.
From here.
It looks blue on this one. It's more purple in my picture. It's more like this color in my picture. But
okay,
just so you know, it's periwinkle blue.
I've been saying the wrong colors. I'm saying wrong colors.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't like that alliance anyways. So it's so hard.
Totally
It's so much harder to say and remind myself about it. And also, I don't want it to happen. I'd rather just everybody out for themselves.
Yeah, so we've got Dolores and also struggling at art saying, yes, let them do the challenges in their jeans and in their blazers down there as well. And then Sudani Speaks says, knowing the competitors that avoided the elimination all season will potentially have to go in before the final is great. Love the twist. Because I've got a feeling, and I don't know what you guys think, I've got a feeling that it's going to be a knockout stage. Everybody is going to go down there and have to prove themselves to a certain degree. And you're not going to get voted down. It's going to be, you go up against someone, if you beat them, you're automatically in the final. And then you maybe get a second chance against like a loser's bracket or something like that going into the final. I've got a feeling everybody is going down there. We saw CT in his elimination gear. We saw Kyle in his elimination gear. I'm sure Devin is going to go in there. I mean, the whole story this season has been, can Devin get to the final without having to go in an elimination? And it's just too convenient for the story and the way that they want the season to play out to have him not go in. Or it would be too, it wouldn't make sense with, I guess, the theme of the story and what we've been seeing on Devin is what I'm trying to say, to not have him go down there and actually be in an elimination, trying to win his way into a final. And if we look at it this way, guys, who do we think on both of these? And I'll bring up our draft picks for this as well. Who do we think here will be in the biggest danger going into the next round, as I take Logan out of the equation, with Drew for the first time getting closer and closer to us and how many people are left?
Mr. Cock is now looking so cocky right now. We're almost even again. Just saying.
I mean, I still have another person extra, so I'm just throwing that out there. It's not technically even yet. There's still a point.
I said pretty much.
Tomato.
I mean, you have Devin on your team, so that Devin doesn't, to me, is going to be the male that's most likely to not be able to make it into the final. That's who most likely, in my opinion.
Yep.
Then next, I would say maybe Kyle.
So I have a different theory, but we'll stick with this theory first. If anything is going to happen, I think Emmanuel is going to be really in danger, because he just went round after round after round with Logan. Like, he is a dancer and he does have good cardio, but if he's doing anything very forceful or physical against anybody, it's going to be tough for him to regain all that energy. I feel I would love for him to have like immunity. I just don't see the challenge having that foresight.
I don't care about that. I don't think.
Yeah, there's no way. So no matter what happens, if everybody's going down, or if he's going to be picked, or if there's a vote or anything, he's going to go down
order
at
or
some
something.
point. But
Maybe he gets
to me,
it's
just
order.
I just don't think he's going to be good. But I think if he goes up like against Devin, and if they're doing the rocket run again, I mean, he could have more energy. But I think they're going to swap up the elimination. Hopefully, I don't want to see that rocket run again. I don't want to see it 2 more times.
Yeah, we've got Dolores here saying Emmanuel and Amanda are in danger, she thinks. And then Esther saying that if my theory is everybody goes up against each other, it would be amazing to see Nani and Casey go up against each other. And I do want to bring up that a couple of episodes ago, we had Nani talking about the fact that she wants to run this final with Casey and how big of a dream it's going to be if that comes true. And again, they put these things in there for a reason. I always think it's a little bit of foreshadowing. It could have been that they're not going to be in the same team running the final, but it could also be that Nani might not even make the final. So I do think Nani and Amanda, probably the two girls at this point that I would say is in the biggest danger of not making it through. And if we look at the guys, I do have to agree with probably Devin and Kyle being in danger, even though it hurts me to say that. I mean, it was funny watching the elimination this round because I knew Emmanuel was in my team, but I didn't want him to win. So it's like, I'm actually sabotaging my own team here with him. If I do get an Emmanuel win for the whole season, it would feel hollow. I'll tell you that much.
I'm wondering actually if Nani is going to fall on her sword if she has to go against Casey, because I think she really wants Casey to get her first win, even before her, because she probably feels as though Casey's more capable of getting it in the end against all the other women that are continuing, like, are still in the game. So I could see if it's going to be between Nani and Casey, that Nani's like, no, you go, you win this for us, and they're in a relationship. So it's pretty good that you let your partner go in and win that $1 million and you get to reap the benefits.
Yeah, I could totally see her doing that. One person in the comment section on my Tiny Table Talk mentioned that it would be nice if it was like a 3-way elimination, kind of like Invasion, of all the players that haven't been in the lair. So if we could have like a CT versus Nelson versus Devin, and then you have Casey versus Nani versus Tori, like, to me, that would be the ultimate like twist. If they could have foreseen that and have that as an option going down there and do like middle out or whatever, inside out, that elimination and Invasion of the Champions, I think that would be the ultimate twist. Because then it's like, it's not like, oh, we needed skulls in this game, but you should have went in or something. But I don't know how you could have foreseen that to ensure that you could make that happen and be a possibility. But a guy can dream.
See, that's my only issue with that twist. If that is what they're bringing in, I do feel it is unfair on the players that played the game with the rules that they thought this game was about, which is trying to get to the end. You don't have to go in there and get a skull. So I don't know how I would feel about it. It would make for some very entertaining TV for sure. But I do think the fairest thing is to say everybody goes down there and has to earn their spot going into the final, instead of punishing people for playing a good social game and not being thrown in there earlier, which I don't personally think would be all that fair. I can see why a lot of people want to see that happen. Personally, I would like to see all of them go in there and fight. And like he said, it's going to be the night of the elimination. So it's more than one elimination going in there. So I've got a feeling it's going to be knockout, winner takes all. For winner wins, they go to the final. But then maybe there's like a loser's bracket. You get a second shot. Ultimately, one guy and one girl loses. That's what I'm hoping for in any case.
I just hope it's not like jousting or something where it's kind of like, like on a little podium and like try to hit the person off in the best of 3. Like, I hope it's not something like that where it's easy to lose. I hope it's something that's a little bit dragged out, maybe has a puzzle element into it, so that like every single person has a good shot at doing well and being successful. Because I just don't want it to heavily favor like either super strong people or I just want it to give everybody a shot, hopefully. But they don't have anything set up. So I'm just wondering if there's a behind the curtain, there's like a whole big challenge set up already, or like, what are they going to do? Or is it like just going to be a night of pole wrestling? Like, I wouldn't like that at all.
My theory on the whole thing is that the agency is gone. Once TJ said that there was 10 agents, everybody is now a social game. Everybody is up for grabs. Everybody gets a vote. And so everybody gets to say one man's name and one woman's name. Whoever has the most votes will go down to the layer, and then they will get to choose who they want to go up against. And I think it'll be they have to choose before they see what's going to be the games. And I think it could be very interesting what could happen. Even though I feel like the vets could just be like, oh, let's just throw in the last 2 rookies and just try to keep each other safe, kind of thing, which I think that would be pretty boring, but I could see them doing that as the twist. And then we're only going to get 2 eliminations because they need to wrap that up so we can get to the first phase of the finals by midway point of next episode. But that's my theory on everything that's going to happen.
I totally can see that but it wouldn't be called a night of eliminations unless you're just
Hmm.
saying like the guy elimination and girl elimination is the plural of it all. But it just seemed to me like it was going to be a night gauntlet where like everybody's going against everybody, maybe in like seeds or whatever, and losers brackets, something like that. And then whoever loses the most, basically, or the losers of all the losers, they go home. So that's kind of how I was feeling it. But
that's like 3 eliminations in one night. That's more eliminations in a challenge night than most nights. So that's why I feel like a night of eliminations is only 2 more people are leaving. So I don't see too much more of like we're going to be running too much more, especially I don't know how long they didn't have a proper aftermath. So I wanted to know how long the actual elimination between Logan and Emmanuel went, because they kept on saying they went round after round, but every round was 15 seconds. And then they went to 10 seconds. I actually wanted to know how long everything went. And I'm not going to listen to that podcast for an hour to see how long they actually went.
Well, Aftermath was like not good. I couldn't even watch it. I was like, no.
I clicked through that. It was so bad. It was so bad. I went on a rant. I went on a rant today in Tiny Table Talk about it because how they labeled the episode, and then it was just them talking to each other about like, Devin, what was your favorite part? Oh, Emmy going into a hall brawl. It was like, no, it's not. That's not your favorite part. Like, get out of here.
Or Casey, like, oh, date night was like my favorite part of this entire season. It's like,
stuff
okay, fine, maybe
shown.
if it was or wasn't, but
yeah, stuff they should have shown. Yet everything they talked about basically was shown. Like, get out of here.
Loved by you here in the chat says, not Chantel and Chris reveling in Drew losing another player. Yes, we're petty like that. We are. When we've been losing the whole season, you take immense
loser. We're the winners.
We were losers.
Loser.
Yeah, we're petty like Kyle here when it comes to it. And then struggling at art says, I think Amanda's in danger, but I really want her in the finals. So I hope she isn't. I think Amanda's got a good story this season as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if she does find a way to get to the final. Love by You also says here that where was this energy when she was playing with her friend for 10 years, Nani, that is, last season, and couldn't help Leroy there with a win. And by the way, I wish I watched Leroy's video before we did your live. I did go and watch it afterwards. Pretty crazy how MTV follows Camilla and doesn't even follow Leroy on Instagram, which I didn't even realize. Absolutely ridiculous. But I wish I saw that before we even had that conversation, because I would have had so much of a better understanding. Not that I think I wasn't on his side, because I'm always going to be on the side of the guy that had the abuse, but it just gave me such more of a wider view of what he was talking about. And it's a shame that it doesn't seem like the relationship between MTV and Leroy is that good at all, which is weird.
Well, and then they kind of came out after and was saying like, oh, we love you, Leroy. We didn't know that you felt this way. And it's just kind of like, well, sure. Like, fine. Thank you for saying something now. But it would have been nice for you to have said something at the time and not maybe have to like, 10 years later or whatever, 8 years later, come back and be like, this is how you guys kind of screwed me over. And it only came up, I think it's because of how they dealt with the Josh Ashley situation. And so,
wow, yeah.
I don't think that he would have been triggered to say something if he didn't see how Josh was taken care of so much by MTV here, and he was not at all in comparison. So
yeah, he deserves better. Deserves a lot better than what MTV has been giving him. Sam here asked if we would ever consider bringing challenges on the show like Ashley, Amanda, Michelle, Devin, and Kyle. And we may have one of those people that I mentioned there on the show. Fingers crossed, they've said they would come on the show, so hopefully that still happens in the future. One of my absolute wants is I want to get Fessy on the show so that Chantel and Drew can face him in an interview. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Not to spoil anything, but I can't wait to talk to Acetra. I just can't wait to talk to him. No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk to Fessy. Let's bring him in. I mean, he's in Orlando or whatever. He's either in Denver or Orlando.
Are you guys buds? Are you buds now? You and Fessy are going to the club together?
Yeah, we just sit in our cars and talk via FaceTime. That's all we do.
Please become friends with Fessy. Actually, you should become friends with that whole crew. Wait, you're in Orlando, correct?
I'm in Tampa.
Oh. Tampa.
Yeah.
Never mind. Because wait, where's what's her name from? Casey. Isn't she in Tampa?
Isn't Miami? Is she in Miami?
Oh, maybe she's Miami. I don't know. I don't know.
I know
Florida,
Josh is in
Florida,
Miami.
Florida. It's all Florida. How big is Florida? I'm just kidding.
Big enough. Not big enough for all of those personalities in any case. I was going to say, so basically from our side, like we would talk to, I would talk to any challenger. I don't care. Like for me personally, and I'm also more than comfortable for them to call me out on anything that I've inaccurately stated on here, because at the end of the day, the only thing that we can comment on is the show and the way that people are being portrayed on the show, and also how they, I guess, hold themselves, out there when it comes to social media. Like you said, Emmanuel going after Big T and all these kind of things, what you put on social media, and if people backlash on that's on you at the end of the day, so we can only see what's on the show and what's on social media at the end of the day.
And we can have an opinion about it and we can talk about it. So
yeah. Dolores says Florida is great. So another Florida fan here. Rodrigo says that please don't have Josh come back for next.
What about on the
season.
show though? Could we palette Josh on the show and talking to him?
I think I've been the highest on Josh this season. I would talk to him. I don't think he would be as angry at me as maybe you guys, but I'm like, come on, let's get the redemption comeback story. But in all honesty, for me, I like seeing some of these players come back season after season and showing growth. Like, I mean, there's a lot of players that have done that. I think he's got the potential, but if he continues to, and we've said this many a times, if he continues to come back with the other Big Brother Alliance members, I think the three of them together, it's not good for each other coming back season after season. There was a lot of talk about Casey this episode. She did pretty well for the females, and Nani saying that, even though she is so capable and she's got all this skill, she's very humble and doesn't really talk about it all that often. Hats off to Casey. She did do pretty well in the daily challenge. Again, like I've said so many times, really good athlete, but I don't think really good at the confessionals, and that makes for boring TV sometimes, sadly.
She's a bore. She's a bore. She's always been a bore. She wasn't that exciting on Big Brother. Her only thing was her catchphrase was "Let's go, let's go," and that's like the only thing she said on Big Brother. She won a lot of challenges on Big Brother, but like I don't know, she just was catching balls or rolling balls or throwing balls. Like it wasn't really anything that impressive. So yes, I think that she's a great competitor, but I think she's really shown us all that she had to offer. I was more interested in her messy storyline when she was like still had a partner at home and was like kind of flirting around with Nani. I didn't like how that ended up with Bailey, but like that whole mess of it all, if it didn't escalate to that height, like okay, that was a little bit like interesting to see, the mess that you kind of cause here. But other than that, she hasn't really brought that much, in my opinion, to the table.
Val says, bring Joss on the show so we can drag him. So we can
drag him!
What we think.
Did you guys see this?
Not a lot of Joss love here.
I'll read it out after. I don't know if it's backwards or not. But like, can you see it or should I read it?
I see Big Brother haters, and then we can't see the right hand or left hand side on your probably phone. Yeah. You might want to read it for us. I just see two people sitting in the bus.
Realizing they are better at the challenge than your favorites. That's Fessie's post. So one side, it's like the Big Brother haters are all disgruntled on the bus, looking up angry, and then like, ooh, the happy people on the other side. I'm just like, no, you're not better than my favorites. I'm sorry, Fessie.
As far as I've seen,
because you watch each other.
CT's still in the show this season, and he can go back to back for the first time ever. So I don't know what he's talking about. The favorites are still there. The real OGs are still there playing the game.
He gives me Paulie vibes in that post. Like it's just him just knocking on challengers and people that want to come at Big Brother for what I think is good criticism. We have criticism, and I love that he posts that on a season that he left like a decade ago. Like I can't even remember him on the show, to be honest.
Was he on the show?
Paulie? What was the last show he was on? World of Worlds 2?
Well, Fessy.
No,
I meant
Fessy. Oh.
Yeah, Fessy seemed like it's been a lifetime since we've seen him.
He wasn't part of the season. Not even an impactful part of the season. It would have only been an impactful part if Josh had gone out with him.
The only thing I will say about Casey is we've talked about Ed and wanting to see more like with these newer competitors, we want to see strategy, we want to see intent. And it feels like Casey always just falls back on her athleticism and how strong she is as a physical competitor. And she can because it is the challenge and the amount of competition and the level of competition that she has to go up against. But I would like to see like, oh, I have to make these moves to get this person out because it's either this person or Nani or this person and my closest ally. We just haven't gotten that. And she seems to always be in a power position because nobody wants to take that shot at her. So I would like to see there be some form of strategy that she has to implement further on at well, it can't be this season because we're pretty much at the end anyway. So I mean, if she's going to be on later seasons, I would like to see more intent than just being like, I'm going to chill in the house because I don't really have to do much. I can just run on the treadmill, do some challenges, and make it very far because nobody wants to take a shot at me. But that's just my deal. I think she could show more personality if there was more that she needed to do in a season than just coast by.
Well, I wonder though if like she were to end up winning this season and then comes back next season, if she would still be able to play that game, or if she would have to like put in a little bit more work because now she'd be like defending her championship position and have to play a different game. Like CT has had to play many different games every single time coming back as like a winner or like the ultimate vet at this point. And so I'm just wondering if she will have to gain a strategy other than just like coasting with behind an alliance if she becomes a winner.
Speaking the truth here, says, imagine the irony of Fessy thinking he's better than the favorites and CT ends up winning back-to-back when Fessy only managed to make finals back-to-back. And also, if you think about it, Fessy really disrespected CT last season and said he was over the wall, he was an old man now, he can't win anymore. And oh man, it's going to be so sweet when CT pulls off another win here this season. We've also got Explorer JC saying, I really hope they don't turn the challenge into some sort of fifth sport league like root off this series as reality TV, in my opinion. And I tell you what, Explorer JC, you are in good company here with Chantel and Drew, who both have been saying that for a long time. Like, I agree. Like, I love the Ninja Warrior physical stuff that they bring to the show, but I don't want, like, there has to be a balance. Like, the one shouldn't be at the expense of the other for me when it comes to the show. And on that note, I think this is a good opportunity to segue into All Stars 2, unless there is anything else you guys wanted to bring up here of this episode. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this week, the real fun
the
episode
good show
between the two.
That's on
the good
air?
show between the two. Like we had competitors coming back, really big characters coming back to play the game again. We had some great challenges going on as well. And there was no shortage of strategy happening here in this episode with the Nehemiah and Derek feud continuing. And my, oh my, am I regretting right now that I didn't pick my boy Nehemiah above Derek. And it was very 50-50 when I had to make my choice in the draft picks for the season. But Nehemiah getting the better here of Derek this episode and really showing, I think, why Derek strategically isn't the mastermind that he proclaimed himself to be in episode 1, and we all knew he wouldn't be. He was really outplayed throughout this whole episode, and even though I'm a big Derek fan, I did get a little bit annoyed when he felt he was entitled to the Lifesavers, and how dare they throw the people with his Lifesavers down there, which meant that he couldn't be saved this episode. Yeah, it's all of them, snakes.
I was saying this when I went live after because I was obviously very annoyed with Derek, and it's like him. So Derek, Nelson, and Corey, they all call people that out strategize them snakes, and that is what the problem is, that they don't really realize that people are just trying to win and they don't want to just give it to you. They want to do what they can to put themselves in a better position, and sometimes you are at the expense of their gameplay. But they're not snakes. It's not a snake move because you would have done the same thing to them and you wouldn't have protected them if you had the opportunity.
One of my favorite parts of this episode is when Nehemiah and Derek got to finally talk with each other, and they kind of like aired everything out, but nothing was solved. But the one point that Nehemiah brought up was like, the reason everybody loves you and the reason why I was like looking up to you is that when you come into the challenge, you're undersized, you got the biggest heart, and no matter what happens or who you're against, you always find a way to win or give it your all, and you can outmuscle the best of the best when you are at your best. But he's always so humble, but this season in the 4 episodes, it just seemed like we were dealing with a different Derek. I don't know if he was just like, I want to try something new this season. I want to be the villain. I want to really speak myself up. But it just seemed like everything, it was rubbing me the wrong way. And from my comment section, it seemed like there was a good amount of people that were like, this doesn't seem like the Derek that I'm used to and I'm always rooting for season after season.
Well, do you remember in the after show of last season where he was like doing all the antics and flipping the chair and storming off the set and stuff like that? So I think that he's trying to, I don't know, like trying to find reasons to be called back. Like he needs to be relevant again. He's trying to do this feud with Nia. I'm not completely sure what's going on, but I was totally on Nehemiah's side when he was saying that, like, you are the likable, rootable underdog. This is not you, and we don't like this version of you. Like, he was pretty bang on about that, and I think that's why I'm not enjoying Derek in this season and at the end of last season, is because, like, we want you to be the underdog, that the kid that kept on going into elimination for his team, and like, you know, like we're like, you can do it, Derek, come on, and he'd always be going with his full heart. And so, yeah, I think the fact that he's forgotten why people really love, root, and respect him is because of that underdog persona that he used to have.
Esther here says that Derek was forcing it this season. I think he tried to bring extra drama, and this feud kind of solidified his callback. And I agree. I think that I hear you guys, but just this feud between Nehemiah and Derek that has been created now means that we're going to see a third round of this, you know, or a second round, depending on how you want to look at season 1. But I do think Derek comes back just based on that alone. But it really shows how much of a double-edged sword it is to go and win that first challenge. Because if Derek didn't win that first challenge with Jody, and he didn't make the decision to put Derek Shavas against Nehemiah instead of Ryan, he may have been able to get away a little bit longer in the game without Nehemiah coming directly at him. But it shows you that that power that you get early in the game can really be a double-edged sword if you don't know what you're doing with it. And Derek is like a baby with a bazooka. You know, he doesn't know how to use it. He's going to pull the trigger. It's going to make a hell of a mess. And it came back to bite him in this case, you know. So I really, like, from an entertainment standpoint, great TV. From is Derek playing the game well standpoint? Hell no. Like, so, I mean, he brought something. Like, it's more than what we can say about a lot of other challengers that are playing the regular seasons, you know. And I want to take my hat off to the group of Nehemiah, LT, Steve, those guys actually going against the grain and realizing that they're on the outside of a very strong alliance that's forming in the game. And so many times in normal seasons, we see people just doing whatever the power alliance wants them to do, like the big old vet alliance sticking together. But these guys are not there to play anybody else's game. They do want to win it. Like Steve said, I haven't played the game for 18 years. I might as well make moves. You know, I'm going to be public enemy number 1 if I make a move, or if I don't make a move, I am going to be on the chopping block. So hats off and applause to these guys showing us how the game is supposed to be played, in my opinion.
So just to trail back a little bit, I feel that Derek, everything kind of fell apart. Yes, he was like a baby with the machine gun or bazooka or whatever you said. But also, though, he thought that everybody was going to throw in Steve because they didn't know him very well, and he didn't realize how connected Steve actually was, and that that Nehemiah was going to be able to call out his opponent, and that the house was also going to give Nehemiah what he wanted. So he completely misplayed his hand, when he had this power. I think that he was completely shocked that it completely backfired. He was like, oh my God, I thought that Steve was going to go in and go home against Nehemiah, and Nehemiah was going to go out. Like, he completely thought that was going to be the outcome. And I think that he definitely didn't realize what the aftermath was going to be. The fact that none of his targets. So now he has Steve, who's like, oh, you were willing to get rid of me. You didn't want me to be here because I commented on your outfit. And then you have Nehemiah's like, oh, you were trying to put Steve in there against me. Well, no, that didn't happen. It's like, oh, and you were having a conversation with me to make it seem like we're friends, but then you didn't even give me who I wanted. Okay, fine. And so he's just made mistake after mistake after mistake. So the fact that he's surprised at any capacity that people were going to come and retaliate if they had any sort of power, I think it was just shows how much he's not great at the political side of this game. That's my Derek rant.
Speaking of the truth here, saying, no, Maya sending the Pitbull back to the pound is already the biggest highlight in All Stars 2 for me. I think a lot of people will agree with you. And then he also says here that I feel like Derek is buttered because even though he thought he would dominate All Stars, he was the first person to lose the final. And another one that I also wanted to bring up here is Struggling at Art saying, Casey, this episode was impeccable as well. Shout out to my girl. And I felt exactly the same. I was like, justified that I picked her as high as I did. She went through there. Didn't
so lucky.
You guys are going to eat your words by the end of this. If Casey, my girl, comes through and she runs the final, wins this, I'd just be like, yep, bragging rights right here.
I don't know if you'll get bragging rights, but this episode, I think that she did her. It was a really great episode for her. I think it would get her a callback if she ever wanted to come back onto the show. I shed a couple tears when she had her win. You saw that even TJ was a little bit emotional when she won, and everybody was really, really proud of her, and I was really proud of her too. So, you haven't seen her run a final yet, so I don't know if we'll be eating our words, but I definitely was very impressed with Casey this episode.
The Casey from 10 years ago. The Casey from 10 years ago had chicken legs. I saw how thin she was. That's not the Casey that's here this time. She's going to run that final. She's trained for this. She's bred for it. Watch it. I'm really happy with that. And she showed she had superior Harry Potter knowledge. Such a fun challenge, right, Drew? Seeing the trivia come back, which we don't get to see all that often these days in the challenge. And me and you had a little bit of a conversation prior to going live here as well about the trivia. And I mentioned to you that some of the questions, like I was following, and I wouldn't know some of it, like, the college football, maybe some of the restaurant stuff wouldn't translate, even though I was surprised that I actually knew quite a few of the top 10 that was in there. It is quite universal, but I do think that there probably is an element of so many international people playing the challenge now that they take out some of the trivia things that you could ask, the pop culture questions you could ask that is relevant to the US, which is maybe one of the reasons they haven't been bringing it back as often. But obviously with this cast being All-American, All-Stars playing this game, what a fun competition to watch.
Yeah, it was a great trivia challenge. I always love trivia. Could use more of TJ laughing a little bit, but I just loved the way it was set up on the building. I can't say I loved Katie disqualifying. That's -2 points for me. But I loved when everybody was strapped in, everybody giving up weird answers. But I love that it was a different kind of trivia challenge. It wasn't like what we got last season with the history of the challenge or challenge history, which I love. I love doing that stuff. I love thinking about it. There was some challenge peppered in there, but this was like kind of like a categories where you give a category, you get to answer it, and whoever gives it wrong, you're off the building. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. You could tell that some people were just nervous, like Jasmine, who just said John A's answer because she was not paying attention. She was too busy looking over the ledge, like, I do not want to be here. But it was fun.
It was a shocker.
I loved it.
It was a shocker that Jasmine's warm-up dance didn't get her ready for trivia in this game, right?
That was before she got to the building.
Oh no, but you could see the fear creeping over her. Like she's just like, she's holding it on, and like she knew it was her turn next, and she had no idea what the answer was, and you could just see like the soul leave the body, and like her face turn white, and like so scared. And even TJ noticed how terrified poor Jasmine was.
Yeah, Darrell was the same. I mean, Darrell's done this so many times, but he was absolutely petrified being up there having to answer the questions. And I just like the challenge. Every time they do it visually on one of these high-rise buildings, the way they do with someone dropping off, it's just so visually stimulating to watch that I really enjoy it, and seeing the fear of people going on there. And then, like Speaking the Truth says here, Casey facing her fear and winning while Katie does the exact opposite and goes home is easily the best accidental storytelling in challenge history. I think that Katie coming back here would feel very disappointed in the fact that this is the way that she went out. And I feel like she will look back at this and really regret it. I don't know if she's back next season or not. I know there is a rumored cast out there. I haven't seen all of the rumored cast. And Drew, I'm sure you can fill me in on if she's actually going to get another shot to come back and redeem herself. I feel really bad for her because she was literally petrified, shaking when she got off there. And I do love TJ, but I felt like he pushed her a little bit too far, trying to keep her on there this time. I felt a little bit uncomfortable with him. Like you can push to a certain level, but then at one point you just got to say, listen, okay, this person is petrified. And it was Kendall who stepped in and said, just let her go before TJ actually let her get off there. Because I know he wants for a good show to have her on there, but I felt a little bit uncomfortable. If someone is that petrified, that's a personal experience they're going through. Let them go, in my opinion.
I think that they were trying to get the people back up there to unhook her again. So I think that, maybe it didn't seem like he was acting that quickly, but also like if they're setting up for the challenge, I don't think that they're standing there ready to unhook her. I think that they were probably, in different spots. So safety wise, like maybe unhooked or on the side or above or below, like maybe they had to like get back to her to unhook her. So I think that that's why it took a lot longer than maybe you'd like it to. But I was just kind of disappointed that Katie why did she let herself get strapped in there? Like if she knew that it was gonna, that she wasn't going to be able to do it. I think that it would have been better if she just said like, hey, I can't do this. I'm not going to go up there. So I kind of wish she just had done that instead of the antics and like I can't do this, I'm going down. It just, I don't know. I don't think she was ever planning on actually doing it.
I think that I like that she actually got hooked up at least. I mean, instead of just being on the ground going like, I'm not even going to go up to the building, like screw this kind of thing. So at least she tried. And I think she had the right mentality going in, like when she was like making the jokes about like, I'm not going to look TJ in the eyes. I think she had the intention of doing it.
Thought she was going to do it.
But I think they took so long because I think they've had players in the past like freak out, but then would do it. And I don't think once you go up there to unstrap her, like there's no turning back. So I think they just wanted to make sure that, hey, we're going to go. And editing magic can make it seem like it took way longer than it did.
But it's like
but
2 seconds.
But I'll be honest, I'm surprised that Kendall was the only one that said, take her down. Because if I'm any of the women, I'm like, take her off. She said she wants to go. Like, she wants to go to the elimination. I'll fight for this win. I'll just, let's go.
I mean, I guess it is a fine line of knowing if, like, she's really saying it or if she's just being dramatic. And, like, I don't have, that kind of debilitating fears. So, like, I don't fully understand that. So... yeah, I think that's true. That maybe they're just like, we're like, is she really saying this, or is she just like having a freak out moment, and then she'll go and she'll do the questions and she'll win the challenge, and then she'll have the Casey moment, So I think that they're also maybe hoping that she would just be willing to overcome it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Emmy this season in Proper Challenge 37. She's freaking out up in the high rise, but she still runs and does it while freaking out. So I guess you don't know. And like a few people here said, like Esther said, maybe it was the editing that made it seem a little bit longer. It wasn't a good look for TJ, but I know TJ is a good guy, so I'm sure that there's more to it than what we could see on the TV show itself. Explorer JC says that he really loves the new trivia format. It's kind of like sudden death where you keep going until someone messes up. And we had a bit of a conversation prior to going live here, Drew. The first person messing up on the chain food restaurant was, according to the edit, Kendall saying Denny's as her first thing. And I was immediately thinking McDonald's, which would have been up there as one of the biggest ones, right? And we both have a feeling that maybe there was a bit of editing magic a few places here where maybe it was Denny's wasn't actually the first thing she said, I would hope. And then also, I think it was Brad who couldn't get one of the 2-time challenges, which there was so many of them that weren't mentioned. Like I was surprised Cara Maria's name didn't come up at all in any of these, but maybe it wasn't edited into the show where he ran out of options, and probably they went on for quite a while, but we just didn't see it in the right order. But overall, I really enjoyed the format of sudden death for this episode.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because we hear Brad saying CT, and then it goes around, but then it cuts back to him real quick. So I think they were just cutting out a lot of the answers just to get to some of the wrong ones, so we could just have it keep going. Because I think the women's round only took 4 minutes, and so did the guys in the edit, in the actual episode, when I took the clips for my video. So, I mean, it's only an 8-minute trivia challenge shown on TV, but it probably took forever. It probably took a long time up on that building. So, I mean, they were just trying to go through it pretty quickly. I will say that one thing that shocked me was Kahutta getting the multi-Oscar winner wrong, and it was Pacino. That would have been the first name coming to my mind. I would have said Pacino too. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I thought it was solid when he said Pacino, to be honest. I want to go back to Nehemiah. This was a very good episode for Nehemiah and probably also for Drew. He's in your team, right? So Drew would have scored quite a few points with Nehemiah this episode with everything that was going on. Nehemiah is the one that comes up here with the plan to throw those people in there that have got the lifesavers. And he has a conversation with Steve prior to that. And it's such a simple and effective plan to nullify the lifesaver, where a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, we were saying, what a brilliant twist. So awesome to have the lifesaver in there. It's going to really mix things up. But I think Nehemiah has shown us the blueprint here to very easily nullify the lifesaver now moving forward in the game. How big of a role do we think this is going to play? And will other people follow this blueprint now for throwing people with the lifesaver in there as an automatic? That way you just get that unknown factor of the lifesaver out of the game, and no one can ruin your plans for who you really want to throw into an elimination. Do we think it's going to stick? Because well done to Nehemiah. I did not think he was going to be the brainiac when it comes to the strategy here coming into the season.
Yeah, they definitely gamed the system, and that's what I like. I love when players get the information and they're able to say, sorry producers, but we figured out your twist and we learned how to work within it. So I'm happy that this happened. I think it might have broke it though, so I don't know if they'll have it last through the rest of the season. They might change it up or make the way that you win the lifesaver change, just so that they'll have to change up their strategy. But I was happy that he gamified the system. I was like, yes, go make Derek not so confident that he has two people willing to use their life shields on him. Like the fact that he was so confident about that and so vocal about that, I think was also probably what triggered Nehemiah to be like, well, if the lifesavers aren't able to be used on you, Derek, then what would you be able to do? So I definitely like that. So now it's going to be, who do you want to come back with the lifesaver? Because you would want to most likely be in alliance with somebody that has a life shield so that you could potentially be using it if you are the winner of the challenge. It's going to have to change things a little bit, but you'll have to be aligned with the people that have the lifesaver and have won the challenge in order for you to be able to use it in a way that could be beneficial. But other than that, I think everybody will burn it.
I think it depends on who wins it and which alliance is in power at the point. I think when it gets down to like players that may not be on a true side, like Ayana, I feel like she could use it for whoever she wants to. I don't think anybody's going to want to burn hers on herself, but I think this episode was like a perfect storm to do this strategy because they wanted to take a shot at Derek. They had two people on the same page, and then the two lifesaver holders or life shield holders were a part of Derek's group. So you take them, you make them use their life shields. They have no vote. And then they can put up whoever they want. And now Derek is out some numbers going forward. So, I mean, it was a really good strategy because there was a point where I forgot that if you use the life shield, you don't get a vote. And I thought that was just like a perfect way to use it. Yes, they gamed the system, but I mean, at a certain point, it's going to come down to players that have it, and then they're going to think about their own game, and maybe they're not going to be working in these big old alliances going forward, and maybe they splinter off. Maybe one person leaves and now it's only 3 people left, and now they have to figure out a different strategy. Maybe they pull other alliance members over. So I mean, it all is based on strategy, but the way that this game is going is perfect. It's not like one giant alliance going up against random people who aren't even working together. This is warring rooms. This is a house divided almost directly in the middle, and this is what we want to see. This is exactly, because now with defined lines, you can decide whether you want to root for this side or this side. Do you want to root against someone? Who do you want to see win on a certain day? And I just really am enjoying everything about All Stars. I just wish it was longer because I just want to see more of it in a given week. But I love it. I love it so much.
It was interesting seeing Laterian not being a part of that group of players that played the first season. I guess Nehemiah played as well, and Tech played, and he was in that side of it. I always thought Laterian had a better relationship with Darrell, and that he would be on that side of Darrell as well. So it was interesting to see how the rooms divided. And maybe it's just me, and I don't know some of the past things that's happened between different players.
Do they even know each other? I don't even know if they were friends in the past.
I thought that they had a pretty good relationship in All Stars 1 between Cyrus, Darrell, and Laterian. I thought they were pretty close.
I viewed Latyrion as more of a lone wolf kind of a way in the first season. I think he was good with everybody, but he didn't care who he went up against in elimination. Like he just would do whatever he needed to do to keep going forward. And I didn't think he cared about alliances in season 1. I think he was just out to prove that he deserved his spot in All Stars and he deserved to be in All Stars, and he would do anything and go up against anybody to prove it. So I think he has a good working relationship with everybody. I just think in All Stars, I viewed him as a lone wolf. And I think this season coming in, maybe the rooms, once you like started rooming with people, it just got to where you maybe have late night chats and you get a little bit more comfortable and closer to those players instead of like, oh, we were in season 1 together. But yeah, it is interesting. I am very happy that we're not getting like this season 1 giant alliance working against the rest of the house. I'm so happy that that's not even the case at all.
Yeah,
I'm
Sudani and yourself
that
both agree at the same time. Just as you said that you're happy that there's not this major alliances going, was working together and then people volunteering going down there. Sudani said the exact same thing at the exact same time. So you guys were on each other's wavelength, Drew. So I just wanted to add that there. Sorry, Chantal, you go ahead.
I was saying that like I'm surprised that I'm not rooting for Darrell's side right now. I'm like, I don't want MJ and Darrell and even Kahana. Like, I love all those players, and I'm like, I'm kind of rooting for Kahana. For Nehemiah and Latyrion and Melinda. Like, this is the alliance. I'm like, yes, I want Steve. Like, let me see these people make some damage. Like,
that's the Misfit alliance.
Rooting for this Misfit like underdog alliance that took a big swing here, and
let's be honest, Chantal,
they hit.
It's Nehemiah's beard that he had this episode that got you truly on board when he had the beard
laughed so hard at that segment. Like, that's another thing too that I love about the All-Stars season is that people are willing to do these silly things. Like, yes, it could be hamming it up for the camera and people might be like, oh, it's performative, whatever, but they're just funny and lighter. Like, Nehemiah like has been quite funny this episode with doing like the cross-side when he's like stalking the guys in the room, and then he's having this beard and acting like Brad. Like, I laughed so much at Nehemiah this episode.
His walk was on point. The Brad walk was on point, like just brilliant. And Brad loved it. Brad, they say imitation is the best form of flattery, and he absolutely loved it.
I was gonna say, when Brad comes and meets him, and they're like, he's like mimicking everything that he's doing. It was awesome. I was on cloud 9 at that point. I was like, let's go, man. This is awesome.
Nehemiah is like solid, secured himself for the next 3-4 All-Stars just by that scene alone. I reckon they're going to ask him to come back as many times as he wants to come back. And, Nehemiah is very capable as well. Very, very capable at winning dailies, at winning things. The big thing here now is, and they kind of mentioned it towards the end, like I think it was Brad who said this when the elimination is done. He said that you took a stab at me. I don't have as many people to protect in the game now, but I know who threw me in against my friend. So will Brad hit back? Will that side of the house, which have got a lot of experienced challengers, and Brad, Darrell, MJ, I'm forgetting a few people, Jody, that's in that side of the house as well. There's some good players there. Janae, I feel like there's going to be some reckoning to be paid in the future. And how long can Nehemiah and #Team Tech survive on the other side there? Because it's good to see Tech. I'm with you, Chantal. I'm loving the underdog alliance at this stage, but I don't know if they're long for this game long term.
I want to see them try.
Same.
So I would say that for on the side of going for which alliance to go to, I'm rooting for Nehemiah's side, which is interesting that we talked about how Derek has changed up his strategy this season, and we kind of felt like it was rubbing us the wrong way. It kind of was a bullish attitude, but Nehemiah is doing the same exact thing. He's changing up his strategy. He's no more Mr. Nice Guy. He's taking the bull by the horns this season, and he's coming out on top. I mean, he's making an alliance with players who are misfits because it's survival at this point. Is he going to be on the bottom rung of one alliance, or is he going to be at the top rung of a different alliance, a warring alliance? And I think it's really impressive to see. The only person I have to say, which I'm scared for my own team, is Steve. I mean, he got the brunt of this. I mean, he sees Katie walking out the arena. That's his number one. She's walking out. He's kind of left with a big old target on his back. And I think everybody is just looking at him going like, yeah, we've been wanting to take a shot at you. You were the one that threw this plan together. You were the main brain of it since you were in power. And I think Nehemiah is going to get off a little bit of scotch-free. Like, I think he's going to keep on being like a big threat in the game and people are going to have their eyes on him, but he's not the one that was in power. He's not the one that took the shots. He's not the one that made the plan to use the life shields and throw in Derek. So I think Steve just has the biggest target on his back, but you know what? At least he created waves before he gets thrown in. I mean, Katie's haunting final confessional going, Steve, you're probably going to be going into an elimination soon. Good luck. And I'm like, you just sealed his fate. You just did it. Well, you're on the same team. You're on my team.
I don't know what happened there though in that deliberation with Casey. Like I understand that they're organizing who was going to be voting for who and who was going to be available to vote, and so they might have just been. I didn't go that deep into what their full strategy was, but why didn't he give her at least like a Jasmine or something? Like, does she have all these close relationship with Jasmine? Even, I don't know, Janae might have been potentially, like, I just don't know who she's close with for her to be like, Ayana is going to be who you're going to send your best friend up against in an elimination when we just saw her completely dominate an elimination before. And it makes sense so for Katie to be upset and be like, hey, like, I want you to give me somebody that I could maybe beat, like not somebody that's like could beat all the guys. So like, why do you think that he didn't get to put somebody else that was just maybe equal size as she is?
I just think Steve wasn't thinking much. I'll be honest. I don't think Steve was thinking. I think Casey, I will give it to her. Like, MJ called her Queen of the South, but I think she put her foot down. I think she knew who she wanted to throw in. She wanted to throw in Kendall, which was on Derek's side. And then I think she wanted to throw Ayana because I feel like she didn't think Ayana was going to take it personally. I think she was going to look at this as an opportunity to go into the elimination, smash it again, prove again why she deserves to be here and not to throw her into an elimination. And I think that's what Casey was thinking about. I think also Ayana is kind of like in the middle of the road a little bit. I think she would lean more towards Nehemiah's alliance in terms of where she would align with. But I think that's what Casey wanted to do. And I feel like she just wanted to really put her foot down, which I would love to see it. I think it was a masterclass. I mean, I felt like she was like a Wes in there. I mean, she learned from the best at one point to like put what she wanted to do. I mean, Steve was able to do whatever he wanted to do on the guy's side. And I think she wanted to have that same opportunity and she got to do what she wanted to do, even though Steve was like, Katie said no Kendall. And she was like, well, I'm going to say Kendall. And Steve just had to sit there and go like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like it was over.
Yeah. And I think her exact argument was that if we don't put Kendall in, Kendall's a vote for Derek. And you need to put her in to eliminate her vote. So she got through to his logical side of the brain, not his emotional side of the brain, which would have been to do exactly what Katie wanted him to do. Christina here says, who do you think Katie was talking about when she said people she could beat? And then Esther sort of answers here, and we can sort of explore this as well. Maybe Melinda. Melinda probably would have never gone in just due to the alliance that she's got with Steve and that side of the house. But Jasmine and Janae, I think, to be honest, and I don't want to throw shade, but I feel like there's not that many people she could have gone in against and beaten in this round. I think Jasmine would have been one of those that she probably could have taken on in an elimination. Janae is definitely no slouch either when it comes to eliminations. And this specific elimination kind of played in the favor of Ayana as well. And to sort of further add to what you said, Drew, Ayana, she sleeps in her suit. She's ready all the time. She's happy to go in. Her strategy this season is going to be throw me in as many eliminations as I can. I'll continue to send people home. I'm A-okay with that because I'm always ready, And this, I guess, elimination for the second time really plays in her wheelhouse because it's all about moving 1,000 pounds from one side up a ramp, putting it into a section that then lifts your puzzle, and you then have to complete a puzzle, which she seems to be good at puzzles. She seems to be good at the physical stuff. At this stage, Ayana is looking good. Like, I mean, what is it that people are going to have to catch her on in these eliminations, what will her weakness be? Maybe it'll be something in regards to endurance or running or something like that. But I mean, in eliminations, there's a limited amount of things that you can do down there. It's not like a final. It takes a different types of skill set to get someone out of an elimination compared to a final. So Ayana's looking pretty good, and she's building that aura, Chantel, that you always talk about. You may not want to go up against her down there because she's starting to put some wins together.
I wouldn't want to go up against her. I could just be like, ugh. Like I wouldn't want to hollow brawl, I wouldn't want to pole wrestle, wouldn't want any of those 2 challenges that she just won. I don't know, maybe like climbing stuff. I don't know how good she'd be at that, but she doesn't seem like she's scared of heights at all. I wonder if she'd be able to do that missile one. Like, yeah, she probably was because she was a track star, right? Yeah, so she probably would be decently good at that, the missile one from the main season. So right now, I can't really think what she wouldn't be pretty good at compared to all the other women that are left in the game. So at this point, I would, unless you want her to take somebody out, I don't think she's going to be going into the elimination.
The only thing I could think is that could take her out is a bad night. Just having a bad night. If you go into eliminations more often, you have a better shot of getting eliminated. So to me, I would rather her. I love that she got 2 wins in a row. Give me those fantasy points, but I'm done. Like I don't want to see her in any more eliminations. I don't want to see her get like 5 eliminations in one season. I think she could take on anybody, but it's just one slip up, one mistake, one bad night. Maybe you have a headache. Maybe you have some sniffles. Maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. Maybe you didn't eat enough that day.
Maybe you drop a puzzle piece and you don't see it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, I mean, it can be happenstance. It could be something unlucky that happens one night, just one night. It just takes one night. And so that's the only thing I could see taking her out is if the more opportunities you go in, the more opportunities you could be going out.
Yeah, there's a reason that experienced challengers do not want to throw themselves out down there, even if they've got good records, because you just don't know what to expect when you go down to the elimination. You did mention the points, and I think it's probably a good point to have a look at where our teams are sitting at the moment and who we lost here this round. I do lose Derek, which leaves me with 2 male contestants now in my team in Kohara and Durrell, who I feel pretty good about so far. I do feel that alliance is going to get the upper hand in the long run. I just have a lot of faith that they could pull it off. But we also have Drew here losing Katie, which was his 2nd female pick coming into the season. So very close race here with Drew still more players on the board than any of us, which is a habit here for Drew to early on in the season do pretty well. Chantel 2nd most, and then I've got the least people left here in my team. Now, Drew, you would have done the number crunching this week in regards to the points. Let us know where the points are sitting and where were the points coming in. Do you have where we were coming into this episode and where it's sitting right now compared to coming into the episode?
First, I have to say that losing 2 players in 1 week is tough. I don't know how you guys have done it over the season, but man, I don't want this to become a thing. I don't want this to become a routine. So last episode or last week, Chantel hopped over everybody, hopped over you to get the top spot and get into 101 points. And then you were close behind with like 96. And then I was at 89. Complete shakeup this episode because of who was in front and who was out in front doing the most talking this episode. So we have in 3rd place, Chantel, getting only 10 extra points this episode. So she only has 111 points, with Jody being your top spot with 26. She had a couple more confessionals. And then Tina, who surprisingly, no confessionals this episode. Surprising.
Very surprising.
She said, like, she did say when she got ejected, like, I think it was look at my camel toe. Does that count?
No,
that's not a confessional.
That was a confessional.
It gave me a good laugh, but it did not count as a confessional. So coming in 2nd place is Team Chris. With Derek as your top spot earner, even though he is eliminated at this point, he had 31 points he ends with. So that's a very big number to end with. Your top earner right now is Durrell with a lot of confessionals and a daily win, but you're at 124. And then I leapfrogged from way behind at 89 points all the way up to 129 points with Nehemiah as the top scorer for me right now is 32. He's just racking up those confessionals, racking up the elimination one last time, an argument. Katie left me hanging, getting me -2 points for that DQ. So luckily she had some confessionals to even it out. My gosh. And of course, Ayana with 23 points, being my my second top scorer, with another elimination win. And yeah, more confessionals, luckily, because she was thrown into an elimination this episode. I will say, third episode in a row, Janelle has not said a single confessional. She has not said anything since episode 1, which is shocking to me. But I think she'll play a bigger role as we go on.
Did
because
MJ
Darrell's
not say
probably gonna be
anything
more.
this episode? Was it only in the bedroom that he was having those conversations? Like, MJ didn't get me any points. I feel like he talks a lot.
MJ has a total of 13 confessionals, so he's gotten you 13 points. He got 4 confessionals this episode, I believe, mainly in the bedroom, but also when he said New Orleans is in a state, and then when he called Casey Queen of the South. And that's pretty much everything that he did this episode.
So what I'm hearing is it's still quite tight between all the teams. Anything can happen with you going from the bottom all the way to the top in a week's time. Anything can happen. I just feel like at this point, I'm just stuck at that second place the whole time, but I'm running out of people very quickly here. So I need to stop the bleeding, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't want to wish anything bad on anybody. But it did look like Melinda was on her back like next episode. So maybe there's an opportunity for us to pull back Chantel going into next week.
Get her out of here.
I might lose Steve. Don't take Melinda away from me either. Come on now.
Gone.
All right. Anything else, guys, that you wanted to discuss from this week's episode of the Challenge All-Stars? Did we miss anything big here?
Celebrating Jody's first elimination win. To me, I knew a lot of trivia of the challenge, but I totally was forgetful that this was Jody's first elimination win coming into this. We know Melinda because she's been on multiple seasons and hasn't won like 4 eliminations or 5 eliminations, but with Jody only seeing 1 elimination in her first streak and then not seeing any more, but winning 2 times. It's very impressive. So congratulations to her, and Kahada adding an elimination win to his total.
Jody is in an interesting position in the game right now without Derek being there moving forward. How much do we think this is going to count against her? And do we think she'll find at home with Derek's other alliance members in the Darrell faction? Do you think she'll find a home there and they'll look after her? Because I was thinking to myself, surely Derek had a conversation with Darrell and said, listen, if I'm out, look out for Jody in the game or something like that. But we probably just didn't see it.
I don't know what's going to happen with Jody here. I'm interested because, like, you know, she came back like, oh, I'm going to remember who sent me in. So, but we didn't see anything else about her wanting some revenge against Tina. And Tina seemed really likable in this episode. And she's just like, oh, I hope everybody doesn't get really angry and mean. Like, I hope that, you know, people stay nice. And so that's probably, obviously, like, we haven't seen where she does the pots and pans yet. So, you know, obviously things are going to go from what they are now to a lot worse. But I just don't know if Jody has like the chutzpah to go after Tina in that kind of manner without having Derek to kind of like push her in that direction. I don't know if she'd have the guts to do it. So not sure.
I think she definitely goes to Darrell's side for the sole fact that she seems to be rooming with Kendall, and she's very much close with Kendall, who is very close to Darrell. So I think and also she said she only could trust Derek. And if Derek is always hanging around his roommates, Darrell, MJ, Kahada, that's exactly who Jody is hanging out with as well. So I think it's just a no-brainer that she's going to move into that. I mean, if Darrell is always going to be partnered up in daily challenges with like Kendall, then I can see maybe Jody moving in with Brad a little bit. Maybe those two can be a powerhouse in some of those pair daily challenges and see if they can get into some good spots and then maybe do some damage within in their alliance to the other team's alliance. But I definitely think that she's definitely going to be working on that side. And who wouldn't want to work with Jody at this point? I mean, she's very tough. She's very strong. So she would be a valuable asset to anybody who wants to make it far into the game. And if you want to run a finals with her, if you're switching partners like last season, I mean, she is somebody that you definitely want to run a final with. So
absolutely.
And trust is a difficult thing to get in the game, and I don't think she's got that backstabbing bone in her body. So I feel like she's someone that you can, for the most part, just take on her word and really bring it in an alliance and keep a number strong there with you. Google Gobble asks, anyone know why Devin isn't doing the All-Stars Aftermath this year? I don't know. Have you guys heard anything? It's sad not to have it because Devin does a great job at those Aftermath shows that she does for Challenge 37, and liked having her there for the All-Stars 1 season as well.
So
and she's not doing the after show for the main season either. It's going to be Maria Menounos and another football player, I'm assuming, as well, correct?
For the reunion?
Reunion, yeah.
Oh, really? Well, that's
I'm guessing that, but maybe I could be wrong. But anyway, sorry, you were going to say?
I was just going to say that it probably, because of how the aftermath for the main season is set up, where there is an actual in studio for that, and then for how long the season went, and for when this was like airing and going along with it, I think that maybe there was some scheduling conflicts. They really wanted to push this new studio instead of Zoom, whereas I think the Zoom was able to, like, you could just have different meetings in different days. Also, we talked about All-Stars 3, there being a rumored cast list, and they're filming the season right now, or they're wrapping it up or whatever, but they were filming it. And so, and I know that some of the players on this season is on that season. So I think maybe they were just trying to like really just rapid film everything, and maybe they can't get as all the players that they wanted to be in studio, or they didn't want to do the Zoom call now that there is in studio. But I do miss the All-Stars Aftermath because I thought that they were a lot more forthcoming with a lot of the info. And I do miss it because we're not getting as much because it's 40 minutes. And so I thought the Aftermath was a good like complementary piece to it, because when they talked about like the daily challenge or the elimination, they would give us a little bit more behind the scenes, and because it does feel a little bit too produced or too edited at certain times because it's so quick. They have to be so quick with 45 minutes.
So Taj Maynard says that Jasmine said on Twitter that she wasn't put in because of an alliance. Jasmine and Casey hinted that the is it Real World, Cancun, and Fresh Meats had an alliance coming into the season. So that's probably why she didn't see the elimination that round, and Casey wanted to protect her. So at this point, Steve's been lucky. But like you guys mentioned, a lot of people know that the hand model was the reason that Derek went home. So we might have to see what happens in the next episode for All-Stars and where things are going to go. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. I'm all here for it. I love the fact that we've got two opposite factions going head-to-head against each other. Should make for a great rest of this season. I'm going to come around now to you, Drew. Let us know what you've been working on your channel and what's coming up over the next week.
Got reviews and recaps for both Challenge All-Stars and Challenge 37. Got Tiny Table Talk for Challenge 37. I got a good amount of videos coming out as the season is wrapping up for Challenge 37. I also have some fun videos like I have Underdog Moments coming out. I have filmed it and is getting ready to edit. And also the Cara Maria video is going to be out, I'm hoping, by the end of this year. So I'm eyeing the last Tuesday of this year. It's a big video. I also want to see how this boxing match goes, if it's still going on. Maybe edit that in too. So I'm having fun. I'm just going with the flow. I want to enjoy the last bit of the year. There's a lot of holidays coming up, but I have a lot of fun things planned for the rest of this year and heading into next year. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, exciting. Chantal, what do you have coming up on your channel on Reality Realness with 3 S's?
Pretty much the same as the past, 3 months or whatever we've been doing this. So what am I doing? So on Wednesdays, I talk about The Bachelorette, usually at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then I do the challenge after the episode or a couple hours after the episode, depending. On Mondays, I'm on Nerdtainment, where we talk about the players of Survivor, and this was a great week where we are going to be ranking these players, and there was a lot of, it was a pretty interesting week. Thank goodness the twist didn't ruin like the game. It actually was okay. So it was a decent episode. So we're going to be ranking the players that are still left in the game. With you guys on Fridays, I'm going to go live in about half an hour and talk with Fanta about this episode of All Stars. And on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on my channel, I talk about Survivor. So I think that's it. But come New Year, we'll be going back to some, Big Brother All-Star or Celebrity Big Brother that's coming. Amazing Race is going to be coming back around. So these are all shows that I'll probably be talking about again. So there'll be some new content coming to the channel.
Really looking
Survivor
forward to... Sorry,
when did Survivor turn into Deal or No Deal? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, my gosh,
let's
that
make a
was
deal,
so
not
dumb.
Deal or No Deal. Let's make a deal.
That was so dumb.
It was annoying.
I was going to say, Chantal, you're not busy at the moment at all, so I'm glad to hear you're going to be upping your schedule next year and start doing more shows for us, because it's not like you're talking about every reality show that is out there, right?
I watch them all, but I don't talk about them all. Not all at once, anyways. But yeah, come New Year though, back to a full schedule.
I'm still looking forward to having a chat with both of you guys at the end of the Survivor season, where we will be doing our own Challenge Insiders recap. I might do a / crossover if I can make it happen with Riley, my Survivor Worldwide co-host as well. So it'll be 4 of us potentially that will talk about this season, because I know that all of us have got a lot of opinions, and this was quite a good episode. But if you're wanting some Survivor recaps here on Reality Pop, be on the lookout for the Survivor buffs that normally drop their episodes on Thursday evenings. I believe it's around 8 p.m. as well, for Survivor recaps. That will happen next week again. And then we also have Coach Drew, who does the Survivor hot takes each week. And then back at the end of the week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will have myself, Chantal, and Drew back to talk about the next episodes for the challenge. We're getting to the pointy end now. It's very close. It's the end of a long Challenge 37 season. But hopefully, when the dust settles, we will have a very worthy winner here at the end. I've got a sneaky suspicion that the editor's showing us one way for the guys. I don't know who the girl is going to be that's going to win this. And I'm very interested to see if we're going to have teams or if we're going to have duos or individuals going into the finale. What does the shakeup mean for the finale? We'll talk about that and everything else next week. We'll catch you then, guys. It was great having you in the chat. Thanks for the live. Talk to you.